My name is Janelle Montgomery and I am 32 years old. The phone call came on a Tuesday afternoon, the kind that changes everything in an instant. Miss Montgomery, the lawyer's voice was steady and professional. Your grandmother has passed away. She's left you her entire estate. The inheritance is approximately $42 million. $42 million. I had to sit down. I remember staring at my cracked phone screen, my hands trembling as I processed the words. My grandmother Estelle, the woman who raised me when my own mother couldn't, had left me everything. I rushed to my car, desperate to get home to tell my husband Devin the news that would transform our lives forever. We'd struggled for so long, my modest salary as a social worker, barely covering our bills while he chased one failed business venture after another. But now, everything would change. We could finally breathe. We could finally live. I never made it home that day. As I drove down Peachtree Street in downtown Houston, my mind racing with plans and dreams, I didn't see it coming. The massive delivery truck that ran the red light, the deafening crash, the world spinning, then darkness. When I finally opened my eyes, I was in a hospital bed at Memorial Hermann Hospital. The fluorescent lights burned my eyes. Every breath felt like broken glass in my chest. A nurse told me I'd been unconscious for 5 days. 5 days. My first thought, my only thought, was Devin. Where was my husband? Why wasn't he here? The nurse's face told me everything before her words did. Honey, she said softly, her dark eyes full of pity. There's been no one here for you. We've called the number you had listed dozens of times. No one answered. My hands shook as I dialed his number on the hospital phone. It rang 3 times before he picked up, and I could hear it immediately. The background noise, loud music, laughter, the clinking of glasses. He was at a party. What? He snapped, annoyed, like I was interrupting something important. Devin, I whispered, my voice breaking. It's me. I'm in the hospital. I was in an accident. There was a pause, but not the kind I expected. Not concern or fear, just irritation. Hospital? Are you serious, Janelle? What did you do now? Did you wreck the car? His voice was cold, dismissive. Devin, please, I gasped, tears streaming down my face. You have to come. A truck hit me. They said I almost died. I have 3 broken ribs, a fractured collarbone, internal bleeding. Please. The music got quieter, and for a moment I thought he was stepping away to focus on me, but his next words shattered that hope. Listen, Janelle, he said, his voice low and venomous. I'm tired of your drama. You're always playing the victim. I'm trying to build something real here, and you just keep dragging me down with your problems. I don't have time for this. I don't have money to waste on a loser. You're on your own. Then he hung up. The dial tone buzzed in my ear. I sat there, staring at the phone, something breaking inside me that had nothing to do with my physical injuries. A loser. He called me a loser. For 11 years I had supported him. 11 years of my paycheck funding his dreams while mine disappeared. I paid our rent. I paid our bills. I bought the expensive suits he wore to impress investors. I ate ramen for dinner so he could take business meetings at steakhouses. And now, broken and alone in a hospital bed, I was the loser. That word echoed in my mind for days as I lay there, healing slowly, painfully, but something else was growing alongside the healing. Something cold and sharp, and absolutely clear. Clarity. The nurses were kind. The doctors were competent. But I was alone. No flowers, no cards, no visitors. Just me and the steady beep of machines monitoring my vital signs. On the 7th day, my lawyer called. Not Devin, not my mother, not my sister, my lawyer. Miss Montgomery, she said. I'm Brenda Castellanos from Castellanos and Webb. I've been trying to reach you. Your grandmother's estate has been processed. The funds are ready for transfer. We need to meet to finalize the inheritance documents. Brenda. I remembered her now. My grandmother had mentioned her. A sharp, brilliant attorney who specialized in estate law. I'm in the hospital, I told her, my voice still weak. Memorial Hermann. Room 412. "I'll be there tomorrow morning," she said immediately. And she was. Brenda Castellanos walked into my hospital room the next day like she owned the place. She was a Puerto Rican woman in her early 40s, impeccably dressed in a navy blue suit, her dark hair pulled back in a sleek bun. She carried a leather briefcase that probably cost more than my monthly salary used to be, but it was her eyes that struck me. Sharp, calculating, missing nothing. "Janelle," she said, extending her hand. Her grip was firm, confident. "I'm so sorry about your grandmother. Estelle spoke of you often. She wanted to make sure you were taken care of. We talked for hours. She explained everything. The trust, the properties my grandmother owned across Texas, the investments, the liquid assets. $42 million. It was real. It was mine." "Now," Brenda said, leaning forward, her voice dropping to a more serious tone, "we need to discuss protection. An inheritance of this size can bring out the worst in people, even people you trust, especially people you trust." I thought of Devin, of his cold voice on the phone, of the 11 years I'd given him. "What do you suggest?" I asked. "First, we set up an ironclad trust. Your name only, no joint accounts, no access for anyone else without explicit written permission. Second, we keep this quiet, very quiet. The moment people know you have money, they'll come crawling. And third," she paused, her eyes intense, "if you have even the slightest suspicion that someone might try to take advantage of you, you tell me immediately. I've seen too many good people destroyed by greedy family members." I nodded slowly. "My husband," I began, then stopped. "My husband doesn't know about the inheritance." Brenda's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Recognition. "Keep it that way," she said firmly, "at least until you're out of this hospital and thinking clearly." I was released from Memorial Hermann 2 weeks after the accident. I had no one to pick me up, so I called an Uber. The driver, an older Nigerian man, helped me into his car with my few belongings. A small bag of clothes my neighbor had dropped off and the hospital paperwork. "You okay?" he asked gently, seeing me wince as I settled into the back seat. "I will be," I said, and I meant it. He drove me to the apartment I shared with Devin, a small 2-bedroom in 3rd Ward. It was a neighborhood we'd moved to 3 years ago, when Devin's last business failed and we couldn't afford anything better. As we pulled up, I saw Devin's car in the driveway. The BMW he'd bought 2 years ago with money I'd co-signed for, money we were still drowning in payments for. My heart started pounding, but not with the anticipation I once would have felt, with something else. Caution, suspicion. I paid the Uber driver, adding a generous tip from the small amount of cash I had left, and slowly made my way to the front door. My ribs still ached with every step. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The apartment was a mess. Empty beer bottles on the coffee table, takeout containers stacked in the kitchen. The TV was on, some sports game playing loudly. And there, on the couch, was Devin. But he wasn't alone. A woman sat next to him, her legs draped over his lap, her head on his shoulder. She was young, maybe mid-20s, with long braids and a tight dress. They were laughing at something on his phone, completely absorbed in each other. Neither of them noticed me standing in the doorway. For a moment, I just stood there, taking it all in. This was my husband, the man who had told me I was a burden, the man who'd hung up on me while I lay broken in a hospital bed. And now, here he was, comfortable and happy, with another woman in our home. "Devin," I said. My voice was steady, calm. Both of them jumped, startled. The woman pulled her legs off his lap quickly, her eyes wide. Devin's face cycled through several emotions in rapid succession. Surprise, guilt, then, shockingly, anger. "Janelle," he said, standing up quickly. "What are you doing here?" I almost laughed. "I live here." He had the audacity to look annoyed. "You should have called. You should have let me know you were coming." "Should I have?" I asked, my eyes moving to the woman on the couch. She looked uncomfortable now, realizing what she'd walked into. "Who is this?" "This is Crystal," Devin said, not even trying to hide it now. "And actually, Janelle, we need to talk." Crystal stood up, grabbing her purse. I should go, she mumbled, avoiding my eyes as she hurried past me to the door. When she was gone, Devin crossed his arms. Sit down, he said. We need to discuss some things. I didn't sit. I just stared at him. I want a divorce, he said bluntly. This isn't working. You're never going to amount to anything, Janelle. I need a partner who can actually contribute. Someone who isn't just surviving on a social worker's salary. I deserve better. The words should have hurt. A month ago, they would have destroyed me. But standing there, my ribs still healing, my body still aching, all I felt was relief. Fine, I said simply. He blinked, clearly not expecting that response. Fine? That's it? What do you want me to say, Devin? You've made yourself very clear. You want a divorce. You'll get one. He nodded slowly, a smug smile spreading across his face. Good. I already have the papers drawn up. My lawyer said it'll be quick since we don't really have any assets to split. You can keep this place. I'm moving in with Crystal anyway. She has a condo in Midtown. I almost told him right then. About the inheritance. About the $42 million sitting in a trust with my name on it. But something stopped me. Brenda's voice in my head. If you have even the slightest suspicion. Where are the papers? I asked. He walked to the kitchen counter and grabbed a manila envelope, tossing it to me. I caught it, barely. Sign them and leave them on the table. I'll pick them up tomorrow. Then he grabbed his keys and walked out, not even looking back. I stood there for a long moment, holding the divorce papers. Then I opened them. My hands were steady now. But as I read through the documents, something caught my eye, something that made my blood run cold. The papers listed our assets. The apartment was in both our names, but it was paid for mostly by me. The car, the one I'd co-signed for, was listed as joint property, but there was something else, something that didn't make sense. Listed as a joint account was a bank account I'd never seen before, an account with Chase Bank, with a balance of $127,000. $127,000. I didn't recognize the account number. We'd always used Wells Fargo. I sat down slowly, my mind racing. Where did this money come from? I pulled out my phone and called Brenda. I need to see you, I said when she answered. Now. We met at her office an hour later. Brenda's firm, Castellanos and Webb, was in a gleaming high-rise in downtown Houston. The office was all glass and steel, modern and intimidating. She ushered me into a private conference room and closed the door. What's wrong? She asked immediately, seeing my face. I slid the divorce papers across the table. Look at this. This account. I've never seen it before. Brenda picked up the papers, her eyes scanning quickly. When she saw the bank account, her jaw tightened. He's trying to claim half of an account you don't even know about? I think it's worse than that, I said. I think he might be trying to hide something. Brenda pulled out her laptop. Give me 10 minutes. She made several phone calls, speaking in rapid Spanish to someone, then in English to what sounded like a banking representative. I watched her work, impressed by her efficiency. Finally, she looked up, her face grim. Janelle, this account was opened 3 months ago. It's in your name, but you didn't open it. How is that possible? Someone used your information. Your social security number. Your ID. They forged your signature. The room seemed to tilt. Devin. Most likely, Brenda said. And here's the interesting part. The money in this account? It came from cash deposits. Small amounts over time. Never enough to trigger a bank alert. But it adds up. Someone was planning this. Planning what? I whispered. Brenda leaned forward. I think your husband knew about your inheritance. That's impossible. I didn't tell anyone. And the accident happened right after I found out. Did you tell anyone you were going to see a lawyer? I thought back. I might have mentioned it to my sister, but I didn't say why. Tell me about your sister, Brenda said. And suddenly everything clicked into place. My sister, Simone. Simone Montgomery Williams was 3 years older than me and had always been the golden child. She married well, a successful investment banker named Marcus Williams. They lived in River Oaks, the wealthiest neighborhood in Houston, in a house that looked like it belonged in a magazine. My mother adored Simone. Everything I did was compared to her. Why can't you be more like your sister? I heard that my entire childhood. When I became a social worker, my mother was disappointed. Simone has a real career, she'd say, as if helping people wasn't real work. My sister has always resented me, I told Brenda slowly. I never understood why. She has everything. The perfect husband, the perfect house, the perfect life. But there's always been this tension between us. When was the last time you spoke to her? Brenda asked. 2 weeks before the accident. She called, asking about Grandma Estelle. She wanted to know if I'd heard from her, if Grandma had mentioned anything about her will. The pieces were falling together now, creating a picture I didn't want to see. She asked specifically about the will. Brenda nodded slowly. I need to make some calls. In the meantime, don't sign those divorce papers. Don't contact your husband. And don't tell anyone about this conversation. What are you thinking? I asked. I'm thinking, Brenda said, her eyes hard, that your accident might not have been an accident at all. The next few days passed in a blur. I moved out of the apartment I shared with Devon, taking only what I absolutely needed. Brenda arranged for me to stay in a corporate apartment her firm kept for clients, a secure building in Montrose with a doorman and cameras. I felt like I was living in a movie, constantly looking over my shoulder, jumping at every sound. Brenda worked quickly. She hired a private investigator, a former Houston PD detective named Raymond Torres. Ray was in his 50s, built like a linebacker, with gray at his temples and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Miss Montgomery, he said when we met, I'm going to be very direct with you. If someone tried to kill you, they're going to try again, especially if they think you're getting close to figuring it out. What do? I asked. You let me work. You stay hidden. And you trust Miss Castellanos. I did. Over the next 3 weeks, Ray dug into everything. He pulled phone records. He tracked financial transactions. He interviewed people without them knowing they were being interviewed. And slowly, a picture emerged. A picture of a conspiracy that made my blood run cold. Devon had known about my inheritance, but he hadn't figured it out on his own. He'd been told, by Simone. My sister had somehow found out about Grandma Estelle's will. Maybe she'd charmed information out of the hospice nurse. Maybe she'd gone through Grandma's papers when she visited. But she knew, and she was furious. In her mind, she deserved that money. She was the successful one. She was the one who'd made something of herself. How dare our grandmother leave everything to me? But Simone couldn't challenge the will. Grandma Estelle had been very clear, very specific. The inheritance was mine, with no contestation clause. If anyone challenged it, they'd get nothing. So Simone came up with a different plan. She reached out to Devon. She knew our marriage was struggling. She knew he resented me, and she made him an offer. Help me, and we'll split it. The plan was simple. Kill me. Make it look like an accident. Devon would inherit as my husband, then divorce would be unnecessary. They'd split the $42 million, $21 million each. All they needed was someone to do the actual work. That's where Marcus came in. Simone's perfect husband, the investment banker. Marcus Williams had a secret. His company, Williams and Associates, was failing. He'd made risky investments that went bad. He'd borrowed money from dangerous people. He was on the verge of losing everything. Simone had offered him a way out. Help me get rid of my sister, and we'll have enough money to pay off your debts and live like kings. Marcus used his connections to hire someone, a truck driver who needed money and didn't ask questions. The hit was supposed to be clean, quick, unquestionable. But I survived. When Ray laid out all the evidence, spreading documents across Brenda's conference table, I felt physically sick. Your sister tried to kill you, he said bluntly. Your husband helped plan it. And your brother-in-law made it happen. What do we do? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Brenda's smile was cold. We build a case, and then we destroy them. The next phase of the plan required me to do something I'd never been good at. Act. Brenda called it setting the trap. I had to pretend I didn't know anything. I had to reach out to Devon and agree to sign the divorce papers. I had to contact Simone and play the victim. I need my family, I told Simone on the phone, my voice shaking convincingly. Devin left me. I'm alone. I have nothing. I could hear the satisfaction in her voice. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. Come over this Sunday. We're having dinner. You need to be around people who love you. The detective wired me. A tiny device hidden in my necklace. Just get them talking, Ray instructed. People who think they've won get careless. Sunday dinner at Simone's house was always a production. The table was set with fine china. The chandelier sparkled overhead. Marcus sat at the head of the table in an expensive suit. Simone played the perfect hostess, and I played the broken, defeated little sister. I don't know what I'm going to do, I said, my voice small. I have nothing. No money. No husband. No future. Simone patted my hand, her nails perfectly manicured. You'll be fine, Janelle. You're strong. You've always been a survivor. I just wish. I trailed off, looking down at my plate. What? Marcus asked. His voice was casual, but I caught the sharpness in his eyes. I wish Grandma had left me something. Anything. But she didn't. She left everything to charity. The lie hung in the air. Simone's fork froze halfway to her mouth. Marcus's eyes narrowed. Everything? Simone asked carefully. Every penny, I said bitterly. $42 million to various charities. The lawyer said Grandma didn't trust family with money. She said it corrupted people. I could see them processing this. Their entire plan had been based on me inheriting millions. If the money was gone, that's terrible, Simone said, but her voice was strained. After everything you've been through, the lawyer said the will was ironclad. There's nothing I can do. I looked up at them, tears in my eyes. I'm sorry. I know you both probably thought. I mean, if I'd inherited something, I would have shared it with family. With you. The silence was deafening. Then Marcus cleared his throat. Well, at least you survived the accident. That's what matters. Barely, I said. They said the truck driver ran a red light, but sometimes I wonder. Wonder what? Simone asked too quickly. If maybe it wasn't an accident. If maybe someone wanted me dead. I watched their faces carefully. Simone's eyes widened. Marcus went very still. That's crazy, Simone said, laughing nervously. Who would want to hurt you? I don't know, I said softly. Maybe someone who thought I had something worth taking. The trap was set. Over the next few weeks, Ray and his team tracked everything. Devin, panicking about the money being gone, started making mistakes. He met with Simone in parking lots, their conversations caught on camera. You said she was getting millions, Devin hissed at one meeting. You said this would set us up for life. I thought she was, Simone shot back. Mama said Grandma was leaving everything to Janelle. How was I supposed to know the old woman would change her mind? Marcus was even more reckless. He tried to contact the truck driver, wanting to know if he could get his money back. The truck driver, scared about going to prison, made a deal with the DA. He agreed to testify against everyone in exchange for a reduced sentence. The evidence piled up. Phone records showing dozens of calls between Simone, Devin, and Marcus in the weeks before my accident. Financial records showing Marcus had paid $50,000 to a shell company owned by the truck driver. Text messages between Devin and Simone, including one where Simone wrote, "Once she's gone, we split it 50-50. Marcus gets his cut for making it happen." And my personal favorite, found on Simone's laptop, a draft email to the lawyer handling the inheritance, asking about the timeline for probate and whether the inheritance would go to the spouse in case of death. They'd been planning this for months. Before I even knew about the inheritance, Brenda called me one evening. "It's time," she said. "The DA has enough evidence. They're issuing arrest warrants tomorrow morning." "What do I need to do?" I asked. "Nothing," she said. "Just watch." The next morning, I sat in Brenda's office and watched it all unfold on the news. Breaking news out of Houston's River Oaks neighborhood, where police have arrested 2 individuals in connection with an attempted murder investigation. The camera showed Simone being led out of her mansion in handcuffs, her face hidden behind her hands. Marcus followed, his expensive suit rumpled, his expression shocked. Marcus Williams, a prominent investment banker, and his wife Simone Montgomery Williams are accused of conspiracy to commit murder and attempted murder in the first degree. Sources say the victim was Simone's younger sister, Janelle Montgomery, who survived a suspicious traffic accident 3 months ago. Devin was arrested at Crystal's condo. The news showed him being walked out in his underwear and a t-shirt, looking confused and terrified. My phone rang. It was my mother. I'd been avoiding her calls for weeks, I answered. Janelle, she sobbed immediately. What is happening? They arrested Simone. They're saying terrible things. Tell me it's not true. Tell me you're not doing this to your sister. Doing this to her. Even now, even with everything, I was the problem. Mama, I said calmly. Simone tried to kill me. That's a lie, she shrieked. Simone would never. You're jealous. You've always been jealous of her success. You're making this up. The police have evidence, Mama. Phone records, financial transactions, text messages. Simone hired someone to run me off the road. Devin helped her plan it, and Marcus paid for it. I don't believe you, she said, but her voice wavered. Simone said you've been acting crazy since the accident. She said you've been making wild accusations. She was worried about you. I laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. Of course she said that. It's called setting up a defense. If you go through with this, my mother said, her voice turning hard, if you testify against your own sister, you are dead to me. Do you hear me? Dead. Mama, I said softly. I've been dead to you my whole life. You just never noticed. I hung up. The trial began 6 months later. The courthouse was a circus. News vans lined the street. Reporters shouted questions. Inside, the courtroom was packed. I sat in the front row, Brenda beside me. Devin was tried first. His public defender was overworked and underprepared. The evidence was overwhelming. Text messages where he'd written to Simone, "When's it happening? I'm tired of waiting. The sooner she's gone, the sooner we get paid." Bank records showing he'd opened the fake account in my name, planning to claim I'd hidden assets from him. Security footage from the hospital, showing him in my room, going through my things while I was unconscious, looking for information about the inheritance. His defense was pathetic. He claimed he'd been manipulated by Simone, that she'd seduced him with promises of money, that he never actually wanted me dead. The jury didn't buy it. After 3 days of deliberation, they came back with a verdict. Guilty on all counts. Attempted murder in the first degree. Conspiracy to commit fraud. The judge was not kind. Mr. Devin Montgomery, the judge said, a stern black woman in her 60s who'd seen it all. You targeted your own wife. A woman who supported you for over a decade. A woman who loved you. You conspired to end her life for money. Money you weren't even entitled to. This court finds your actions reprehensible and cowardly. He was sentenced to 30 years in state prison with no possibility of parole. As they led him away, he turned and looked at me. His eyes were full of hate, not remorse. Not regret, just pure toxic hatred. He wasn't sorry for trying to kill me. He was just sorry he'd failed. Simone's trial was worse. She hired an expensive defense team. They tried everything. They claimed I'd orchestrated the whole thing to frame her. They brought in psychiatrists, who testified I had a history of mental instability. They painted me as the jealous little sister who couldn't handle Simone's success. But then Ray took the stand. He laid out the evidence methodically. The phone calls, the meetings, the text messages. I need her gone, Simone had texted Marcus. She's about to get everything that should be mine. Make it look like an accident. And then came the truck driver. His name was Luis Hernandez, and he was a broken man. He testified that Marcus had approached him at a bar, offered him $50,000 to take care of a problem. I needed the money, Luis sobbed on the stand. My daughter was sick. I wasn't thinking straight. But I didn't want to kill nobody. I just wanted to scare her. But Mr. Williams, he said it had to look real. It had to look like an accident. The defense tried to tear him apart, but the evidence backed up every word he said. Marcus took the stand in his own defense. Big mistake. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Angela Chen, destroyed him. Mr. Williams, Isn't it true that your company was on the verge of bankruptcy? We were having some financial difficulties. Isn't it true you owed over $3 million to various creditors, some of whom had threatened you? That's an exaggeration. Isn't it true that you saw Miss Montgomery's inheritance as a way to solve all your problems? No. Then why? Angela said, holding up a document. Did you Google, how long does probate take in Texas's 3 days after Janelle Montgomery's accident? The courtroom went silent. Marcus had no answer. Simone's verdict came back after 5 days. Guilty. Attempted murder. Conspiracy. Fraud. The judge sentenced her to 25 years. But the real punishment came from somewhere else. Marcus's family, wealthy and well-connected, immediately filed for divorce. They blamed everything on Simone, the black woman who'd corrupted their son, who'd brought shame to their family name. They cut her off completely. No money for appeals, no support, nothing. Within 6 months, she'd lost everything. Her house in River Oaks, her car, her status, everything she'd valued more than her own sister's life. Marcus got 20 years. His career was over, his reputation destroyed. I watched them both get led away in chains, and all I felt was empty. Not triumphant, not satisfied, just empty. My mother never spoke to me again. She sent me one letter, filled with accusations and Bible verses about forgiveness. I never responded. But here's what I learned from this nightmare. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you most are the ones who want to destroy you. Money doesn't change people. It reveals them. My grandmother Estelle knew this. That's why she left me everything. Not because I was perfect, but because she knew I had a good heart. She knew I'd use it to help people. And I did. I used my inheritance to start a foundation. The Estelle Montgomery Foundation provides legal aid to women who've been abused by their families. We help them escape. We help them rebuild. We give them what I had, a second chance, and power, real power. I never saw Devin again after his sentencing. But I heard through mutual friends that prison wasn't kind to him. Men who hurt women aren't popular in prison. Simone tried to write me letters from prison. I never opened them. I just sent them back marked return to sender. Marcus served 5 years before dying of a heart attack. His family didn't claim his body. He was buried in a pauper's grave. I didn't attend the funeral. 3 years after everything happened, I was walking through Herman Park on a Saturday morning. The sun was shining. The flowers were blooming. I was alive. A little girl ran past me, laughing, chasing a butterfly. Her mother called after her in Spanish, smiling, and I realized something. I was happy, truly happy. For the first time in my life. I had money, yes, but that's not what made me happy. What made me happy was freedom. Freedom from people who'd never valued me. Freedom from constantly trying to prove my worth. Freedom from carrying other people's dreams while my own died. I was free. I still see Brenda regularly. She became more than my lawyer. She became my friend, one of my few real friends. You know what I love about you? She told me over coffee one afternoon. You could have become bitter. You could have let this destroy you. But instead, you used it to build something beautiful. I had good teachers, I said, thinking of my grandmother. And I had the right lawyer. She laughed. You're damn right you did. The foundation grew. We helped hundreds of women. Women who'd been betrayed by family members. Women who'd been stolen from. Women who'd been gaslit and manipulated. Women who just needed someone to believe them. I believed them all. Because I knew how it felt. I knew what it was like when the people who should protect you are the ones trying to destroy you. I knew what it was like to be called crazy when you're the only sane one in the room. One day, about 4 years after the trial, I got a call from the prison. Devin wanted to see me. He was requesting a visit. I almost said no, but curiosity got the better of me. I wanted to see what prison had made of him. I wanted to see if he'd finally learned anything. The visiting room at the Huntsville unit was exactly as depressing as you'd imagine. Gray walls, metal tables bolted to the floor, the smell of industrial cleaner and desperation. Devin shuffled in wearing an orange jumpsuit. He'd lost weight. His hair was graying. He looked older than his 38 years. We sat across from each other, a guard standing nearby. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. "Why did you agree to see me?" he finally asked. His voice was different, quieter, worn down. "Curiosity," I said honestly. "What did you want to say?" He looked down at his hands. "I wanted to apologize." "Okay." He looked up, surprised by my calm response. "That's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say, Devin? That I forgive you? That we can move past this?" "I don't know what I wanted," he admitted. "Maybe I just needed to say it out loud." "To your face." "You tried to kill me," I said. My voice was steady. "Factual. You called me a loser while I was in a hospital bed. You let your greed and your resentment override everything. Our vows, our history, basic human decency. I know. So what changed? Why apologize now?" He was quiet for a moment. "I've had a lot of time to think about what I lost. Not just the money, but you. You were good to me, Janelle. Better than I deserved. And I destroyed it because I wanted more." "You destroyed it because you never valued me in the first place," I said. "I was just useful to you. Until I wasn't." He didn't deny it. "For what it's worth," he said, "I am sorry. Truly." I stood up. "I believe you. I believe you're sorry you got caught. Sorry you're in here. Sorry your plan didn't work. But I don't think you're sorry about what you actually did. Because if that truck had killed me, you'd be living in a mansion right now with Simone and Marcus, splitting $42 million. His face told me I was right. "Goodbye, Devin," I said. "Don't contact me again." I walked out and never looked back. That visit gave me closure. Not because he apologized, but because I realized I didn't need his apology. I didn't need his regret. I didn't need anything from him at all. I'd already won. Not because I had money, but because I was alive. I was free. And I was using my second chance to help others. 5 years after the accident, I stood in front of a room full of women at the Foundation's annual gala. These were women we'd helped. Women who'd escaped abusive situations. Women who'd rebuilt their lives. "My grandmother once told me," I said, looking out at all those faces, "that the true measure of wealth isn't what you have, it's what you do with it. It's how many lives you touch, how much good you create in the world." I paused, thinking about everything I'd been through. I inherited money, but I also inherited pain, betrayal, trauma. For a long time, I didn't know which legacy would define me. But then I realized something. We all inherit things from our past. Some good, some terrible. The question isn't what we inherited. It's what we do with it. Do we let it poison us? Or do we use it to grow something beautiful? The room was silent, everyone listening. My family tried to kill me for money. They saw me as an obstacle, as something to remove. And yes, that hurt. It still hurts. But that pain taught me something valuable. It taught me who I really was, not who they said I was. Not the loser, not the failure, but someone strong enough to survive, strong enough to rebuild, and strong enough to help others do the same. The applause was thunderous. After the speech, a young woman approached me. She was maybe 25, with scared eyes and a bruise on her wrist she tried to hide. "Miss Montgomery," she said quietly, "I need help. My family, they're trying to take everything from me. I don't know what to do." I took her hand gently. "You just did the hardest part. You asked for help. Now let us do the rest." We helped her, just like we helped hundreds of others, because that's what the money was really for. Not to buy things, not to prove anything to anyone, but to build a different kind of legacy. 7 years after the accident, I met someone. His name was Isaiah, and he was nothing like Devin. He was a high school teacher, patient and kind, with laugh lines around his eyes and a gentle way of listening. We met at a community event the foundation sponsored. He had no idea who I was or what I'd been through. He just knew me as Janelle, the woman who ran a nonprofit. On our third date, I told him everything. The inheritance, the attempt on my life, the trial. Everything. I watched his face carefully, waiting for his reaction. "That's horrible," he said finally. I'm so sorry you went through that. Does it change anything? I asked. About how you see me? He thought about it. It makes me admire you more. You survived something that would have broken most people. And instead of becoming bitter, you became better. That's when I knew. This was real. 6 months later, we got married. Small ceremony. Just close friends. Brenda was my maid of honor. You deserve this, she told me as she helped me into my dress. You deserve someone who sees your worth. I know, I said. And I did. Isaiah and I built a life together. We bought a house in the Heights. Nothing fancy, just comfortable. We traveled. We laughed. We created the kind of quiet, steady happiness that doesn't make headlines but fills your soul. The foundation continued to grow. We expanded to other cities. Dallas, Austin, San Antonio. Everywhere we went, we found women who needed help. Women whose families had betrayed them. Women who just needed someone to believe their story. 10 years after the accident, I visited my grandmother's grave for the first time since her funeral. It was a beautiful spring day. The cemetery was peaceful, full of old oak trees and singing birds. I stood in front of her headstone. Estelle Montgomery, beloved grandmother. She believed in second chances. I knelt down and placed fresh flowers at the base of the stone. Thank you, Grandma, I whispered, for everything. For believing in me when no one else did. For giving me the resources to help others. For teaching me that real wealth isn't measured in dollars. The wind rustled through the trees, and for a moment, I swear I felt her presence. Warm, loving, proud. I'm doing good work with what you left me, I continued. I'm helping people. I'm making a difference. I hope that makes you proud. As I stood to leave, I noticed something. Another visitor had left flowers on a nearby grave. A young woman, maybe 30, with 2 small children. She was crying softly, telling her kids about their grandmother who'd passed away. Her situation looked familiar. The worn clothes, the tired eyes, the determination mixed with desperation. I approached her carefully. "Excuse me," I said gently. I couldn't help but notice. "Are you okay? Is there anything I can help with?" She looked up, surprised. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bother anyone. You're not bothering me at all. My name is Janelle Montgomery. I run a foundation that helps families in need." I handed her my card. "If you ever need assistance, legal help, resources, anything, please reach out." She took the card with trembling hands. "Thank you," she whispered. "You have no idea how much I needed to hear that right now." As I walked back to my car, I smiled. This was the legacy my grandmother had really left me. Not just money, but the ability to be there for others, the way she'd been there for me. The ability to offer hope to people who'd lost it. The ability to make a difference. I got in my car and drove home to Isaiah, to our life, to our quiet happiness. And I realized something important. Devin and Simone and Marcus, they'd tried to take everything from me. They'd tried to steal my inheritance, my life, my future. But they'd failed. Because what I had, what I'd built, couldn't be stolen. It could only be given. And I was giving it freely, every single day, to women who needed it most. That's my story. The story of how betrayal became my greatest teacher. How tragedy became my purpose. And how an inheritance of money transformed into an inheritance of hope. If you've ever been betrayed by family, if you've ever been called crazy when you were the only one telling the truth, if you've ever had to rebuild your life from nothing, know this. You're not alone. Your story matters, your survival matters, and your future is still being written. Don't let anyone else hold the pen.